Hello everybody, Calamity here, and it's been a while since my last video. Today we're going to talk about the brand new weapon banner that just got released along with the brand new patch. This banner is featuring Eula and Klee, so we have their respective signature weapons. Now Klee doesn't actually have a signature weapon. The Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds is a 5-star catalyst weapon that is available in the standard banner, which is very important, and I feel like new players should know this, that you can get this weapon. It is possible at any time during a standard banner pull, as well as losing your 50-50 on a weapon banner pull. So I'm not saying you're going to have a Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds, but it is possible to get one. Just so that y'all don't think I'm clickbaiting you, the TLDR of this video, or TLDW, excuse me, is that you should not pull on this weapon banner by any means unless you got Eula. If you got Eula and you want her signature weapon, well, I mean, obviously it's RNG, right? But just get your Song of Broken Pines and cash out of the casino as soon as you can. This weapon banner is awful. Now, the 4 stars on it are okay. Like, some of them are pretty decent, but I'm talking about just the 5-star ones here, because a banner like this is like having Eula. Imagine if Eula was in the limited banner right now, but instead of Klee, it was someone like Diluc or Mona. Now, while those characters are actually good and you know, they're not horrible characters or whatever on their own, it's just the fact that they're standard characters, just like this weapon is a standard weapon that you can pull for at any time. Something else that you should know is that you can definitely get, if you do pull for Klee and you're wanting to get her a 5-star weapon, it doesn't have to be the Lost Prayer of the Sacred Winds. This is a good weapon, don't get me wrong, but you could just slap on a 4-star Widsith and call it a day there. That's a really good option for Klee. So that's my fast advice for this banner, but let's talk about the weapons in a little bit more detail. So the first weapon that we have is the Song of the Broken Pines. This is Eula's signature weapon, and it has a substat of physical damage bonus. Now you see a lot of text here. There's a lot of text, but let's just break it down. Basically, lots of free damage, and you're going to get a buff that increases your normal attack speed, and once again increasing that damage. This weapon is only good for physical damage dealers or DPS characters, so if you don't have Eula and you're trying to wonder who this is for, this could be good for Razor, even Xinyan if you're trying to go for a physical DPS build with her. Other than that, though, it has very limited usage, and I don't recommend pulling for this weapon unless you really do have Eula. Even with Razor and Xinyan, if you're going physical damage for them, I would just give them literally anything else. Even a Wolf's Gravestone is okay, or a Skyward Pride for Xinyan is also going to be okay. Now, next up, let's talk about the Lost Prayer of the Sacred Winds. This is, well, it's not really Klee's signature weapon, but it is paired with her. This is going to increase your movement speed by 10%, and you're going to gain an elemental damage bonus every 4 seconds that you're on the field for a maximum of 4 stacks. It takes quite a while for this weapon to ramp up to get its full effect, so you're going to want to obviously give this to the quote-unquote selfish character on your team that is going to be on the field for the most part. Other than Klee, this can be a great option for Ningguang. You can also give this to Haizo as well. Again, the reason it's so hard to recommend this weapon is that it's just a standard banner weapon, and you can possibly get it on your pulls, and there are other 4-star or 5-star options that are also going to be for Klee. For example, as I said before, you don't have to pull this weapon for her. You could just slap on a Widsith even at Refinement 5, because it's more than likely you're going to get a bunch of copies of that weapon, right? And that weapon's going to give you a lot of damage. You could even argue that it outperforms 5-star weapons, depending on the buff you get with a Widsith. Now, let's move on to the 4-star weapons. Again, we're going to go through these kind of fast because there's not much to talk about here, but first off, we have the Alley Flash. This is a sword with Elemental Mastery as a substat, and it's going to increase the damage dealt by the character equipping this weapon by 12%. Taking damage disables this effect for 5 seconds. Now, the reason this weapon isn't recommended for honestly anybody at this point is because you can craft an Iron Sting. This is a weapon that you can craft as early as Mondstadt. It also has Elemental Mastery as a substat, and the effect of the weapon increases your elemental skill and provides just, I believe it's just more elemental damage overall. So it's a solid weapon that you can get for free, and you can get it all the way up to refinement 5. So there's really no reason to want an alley flash other than aesthetic for a character. Next up, we do have a very solid 4-star weapon here. It's called the Rainslasher, and if you watched my Diluc guide, I recommended this weapon for him because it's going to be one of his best 4-star options. This is a claymore that gives you elemental mastery as a substat, and it's going to increase the damage increase the damage when your opponents are affected by either Hydro or Electro by 20%. So this is really good for Diluc because most people build him in a vaporized team, so your opponents will be affected by Hydro, and they will be taking advantage of this weapon's effect. Diluc does not have to be the sole user of this weapon. Any sort of character that you're building for, like a Burgeon team or a Hyper Bloom team, or even just a Quick Bloom team, any character that uses a Claymore and that just wants straight up elemental mastery, this weapon's going to be a top pick for you. Next up, we have another excellent 4-star weapon. This is the Favonius Lance. If you're not familiar with it, every time you crit, you're going to generate additional elemental particles. And keep in mind, these are omni elemental particles, meaning they don't belong to a specific element, so it's going to be good energy recharge for your whole team. And this effect can only occur once every 12 seconds. So when you equip this weapon on a character, you're going to want to give them a decent amount of crit rate. Usually like 30% is good enough to get the weapon's effect consistently. More is always welcome. It's a very solid weapon used for a lot of support characters. Yunjin can use this, Rosaria, Yao Yao. Shenhe is also another good option for this weapon. Basically, any support character in the game that uses a polearm as their weapon is going to have a Favonius Lance as a solid option for in most cases. It's a very, very good support weapon. Many characters use it, or the Favonius Sword being also just as equally good because they have the same effect. So it's a very good weapon if you happen to pull one of these. Lots of characters use it. Next up, we have the Eye of Perception. Now, this is probably worst weapon on the banner, if not the Alley Flash, but the Eye of Perception just gives you some attack percentage as a substat, and it makes your normal and charge attacks fire a bolt of perception, which deals additional damage. And it shoots this bolt that can bounce between opponents 4 times, with the effect occurring every 12 seconds. Sorry if you hear any like fireworks in the background. I made the mistake of trying to record this video on July 4th. Yeah, this is a very meh weapon. I consider this weapon to be what I call a stepping stone weapon, meaning it's a weapon that I would give to a character if you have nothing else, but you can definitely get upgrades for it later. It doesn't have to be necessarily a 5-star weapon. It could be even a 4-star. So if you don't have a Widsith, and you don't have anything for Klee, and maybe you have this 4-star, you pull the Eye of Perception, this could be an okay weapon to give to her for a starter, and then eventually if you do get a Widsith later on from your pulls or anything like that, you can feel free to replace this weapon later on. And finally, we have the Alley Hunter. This is going to give you attack percentage as a subset, and while the character is equipped with this weapon and they're not on the field, their damage increases by 2% up to a maximum of 20. When the character is on the field for more than 4 seconds, the aforementioned damage buff decreases by 4% per second until it reaches 0. This weapon is not that good, to be honest. Again, I feel like this is a weapon that was probably designed for your sub DPSs out there, so maybe like Fischl or Amber even. It's just a character that isn't supposed to take up a lot of time on the field so that they can gain the weapon's passive damage increase while you're using other characters, and then you quickly do their damage and then swap off. I would probably call this a stepping stone weapon. You can slap it on a main DPS, a sub DPS, but I would definitely look for upgrades. And that is going to wrap it up for the weapon banner review for 3. Are we on 3.8? I can't remember update numbers anymore. The weapon banner in a nutshell, it's not that great. Like, yes, there's a couple of good there's 2 decent weapons on this banner, the Rainslasher and the Favonius Lance, but 5 stars, which is the main reason why we want to pull for weapons, right, just aren't that good. Song of Broken Pines, only if you got Eula. Lost Prayer is, again, I'm not saying Lost Prayer is bad. It is a pretty good weapon for a lot of characters, but there's no need to pull for it on a weapon banner when it's already available in the standard banner, or you could potentially lose a 50-50 and pull a Lost Prayer instead. So not really worth it to go for Lost Prayer in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about the weapon banner. Did I miss any other characters that could use some of the 5-star or 4-star weapons? Let me know in the comments. And with that being said, that's going to be a wrap. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the content, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.